Hello, everyone, and welcome, as always, to Strategy Gaming Dojo, where we find, learn, and play one more turn of the great strategy games. And today I thought we would do a little Let's Play of Field of Glory Empires, which is one of my favorite grand strategy games. I think it's a fantastic game, completely underrated. It came out around the same time as Emperor Rome, and I think that caused maybe there to be just not quite the buzz that you would normally get for a big grand strategy game like this. Also, this was AGEOD's first kind of, swing at doing a huge grand strategy game like this. Now, AGEOD, of course, has done pretty much every bit of warfare over the last 500 years or so in one way or another, and they've even done a Roman game called Alia Jacta Est, which I did enjoy quite a bit. But this is kind of a different bite at the apple. This is true grand strategy. It will remind you of a Paradox game, but it's different. I mean, I say remind you, it's got the same grand scope of a Paradox game, but it actually plays quite a bit different. Now, one of the things that I find is maybe confusing about this is that a lot of people say, well, what's going on? I can play Field of Glory 2 on here. I can't. Like, how does this work? Do I have to export the battles? No, you do not. You do not have to export the battles to Field of Glory 2. And as a matter of fact, I will not be doing that, which I know is kind of strange because I actually really like Field of Glory 2. And I really like this game. I don't like them together. So I never export my battles. I actually kind of like the way the battles are done within the game. And so I'll be showing you all that and how you play it and how this all plays out. But I'm not going to be exporting over to Field of Glory 2. To me, it just takes too much time. You get over there, the battles get a little samey. And I think the way they do the battles here is a little rock, paper, scissors, but it makes sense. And so if you have a better army, you're generally going to win. And if you have an inferior army, you're generally going to lose. Now, that may frustrate some people, and if it does, by all means, export it, play each one of these out. But you're going to be fighting a lot of battles. And so I've set this up to do the Grand Campaign at 310 BC. You can also play the Grand Campaign from 500 BC, I think 510 BC. There is a whole nother scenario that goes further back in time, but this is just the base game. The Grand Campaign 310, and this would go all the way to 190. They're doing the Common Era, but basically 190 AD. So we're starting at about 310 BC. To 190 AD. And as you see, the first thing that pops up here is Rome. Well, of course, we're not going to play Rome. That's not as much fun. Although I will tell you, almost all of this world, let me back up, and this is why I say it reminds you of a Paradox game. It's got all of these different factions out here that you can play. Now, the important thing in this game are regions. That's what you're going to be trying to take over, are these regions, and they all have different aspects to them that you're going to have to keep in mind and that affect the game. But we'll get into all that. Now, I am going to play the Arverni, and the Arverni are Gauls. They're out here. Actually, they're part of the Celts. They're Celtic at this point, but they're in Gaul. Maybe that's what I should say, but they are a Celtic tribe. Now, they famously, the Arverni, fought naked. Unfortunately, that is not the case in this game, or fortunately, because I'm not sure I want to see just how endowed my army might be. The Arverni now start off, and we'll click on here, we can read all about them, and you can play any of these factions that are lit up. So as you can see, as we go around the map, you could play all of these different tribes. I mean, this is a full world map for the known world at the time for Europe, right? And so you could play out here. You have Macedonia. You have what would become eventually the Eastern Roman Empire. You have Rome. You have all of kind of the classic Roman enemy, quote unquote enemies at the start. You have Carthage down here and whatnot. But up here in the Celtic tribes, We have the Aquitani, the Galli that do become the Gauls, I guess, the Parisi. I wonder what that ends up becoming, this little town here, the Veneti, and of course the Arverni, which we're going to play. So we've clicked on them. The difficulty, 4 stars. That means they are very difficult to play, supposedly. Interest, they don't have as high of an interest. Let's just compare that to Rome. Rome is a 3 difficulty, but of course a 5 interest. And as we click back here, it says they are Celtic. The Arverni were one of the most powerful Gallic tribes. All right, so they are calling them a Gallic tribe, even though they're Celtic, okay. When Rome arrived in the region, they at times fought the invaders and at other times sought compromise, but the Arverni took part in Vercingetorix's Great Revolt. Now, you've heard about that and learned about that. All these Celtic Gallic tribes got together at some point and said, this is ridiculous. We keep paying the Romans off. We keep getting attacked by them separately as we fight amongst ourselves. Let's all come together and revolt against the Romans. That ended up not going great for them. Eventually the Romans took over all of Gaul under Julius Caesar, of course. Afterwards, they retained a degree of local autonomy, but became increasingly Romanized, okay? And our first ruler is Critolus. Now, time goes by, and you will be getting different rulers as time goes by. That's kind of out of your control a little bit, and this is not like Crusader Kings, where there's a role-playing aspect to it, really. It's not as if Critolus has his own family and you're going to get to know them and figure out who's going to be your heir or not be your heir. It just doesn't work like that. This is more of a big, grand strategy game, more along the lines of EU4 as opposed to Crusader Kings 3. Now, one reason I like to pick the Arverni is they have a very powerful military at the start, and you can see that one of the most powerful Gallic tribes. And if you just look, this is kind of a basic combat value that's underneath our army. So everybody starts with an army of some sort. You'll see down here, Massalia has 15 combat strength. Emporia 15, Aquitani, pretty strong, 66, and they start off with 2 regions, all right? I can tell you the Aedui are very tough. They're tough. This is a tough game. It is not an easy game to win. It took me a few tries to get to the point where I could take the Arverni very far. It's difficult. They have a 53, the Galli up here 33. Now there's a little fog of war. You don't know exactly what they have, but the Arverni, our guys, have a 99, so that starts off very strong. Now you see down here, we see the Romans at 43. Believe me, the Romans have a stronger army than we do. You're just not seeing that yet. A little bit of fog of war. You can also see that every one of these regions, as we roll over it, has a bunch of different values that we'll get into. But let's go ahead and pick our faction here. The Arverni, we're going to say okay to that. Now, this is a turn-based WeGo game. So if you've ever played AGEOD games in the past, they do a great job doing this WeGo system that I really like. And every turn in this game is going to be 1 year, okay? And so you kind of take your time, figure out what you're going to do, then you hit, next turn, and the forces and your units move around the map, and that would be 1 year of time, okay? And you can see right up here, turn 1, year 310. We have fair weather. Now that does matter for warfare, and so you start off fair weather, but you're always going to want to pay attention to that, just like every other war game. If we have poor weather, it'll get cold here. We do not fight as well on the attack. All right. I do find that the AI in this game is very good, and again, this is a very challenging game. I'm playing on difficult. Just because I put a lot of hours into this game. I've played it quite a bit. I really enjoy it. We'll get into all of the different aspects, but we've already read the context. gameplay. As with many smaller states, your initial problem is one of survival. That is true. You may need to trade off long-term legacy for short-term military levies to fend off hostile neighbors. If or when Rome starts to expand into Gaul, you are likely to be the first target, so prepare for this by early expansion. As with the other Gallic tribes, you have some special buildings that will help with food, manpower, and combat. Okay. Now, there was a lot to kind of take in there. I can tell you, if Rome decides to expand right up here through the Alpine region, we're in trouble. I mean, we cannot hold them off. We have got to try to take as much of Gaul as we can early on to even have a fighting chance. Now, if the Romans set their eyes elsewhere, we are in pretty good shape. We have the most powerful military at the start in Gaul, and so we got to keep that in mind and really try to press that advantage. That is the big advantage that we have. But let's go look at our home territory here. All right, and so you can see in the tooltip there, our home territory is called Arvernia. It is part of Gallia. Okay, it has a population of 6, and you see the pops down here. You have pops. Now, these are either citizens, you can see here, Celtic citizen, all right? And then you also have slaves, and so we have 2 slave pops, and we have 4 citizen pops, and that does make a big difference. Now, one twist on this game that is really cool, I think, and really well done, is this whole legacy and decadence part of the game. That it makes it completely unlike other grand strategy paint the map kind of games. Now, you are trying to paint the map here. You're trying to make your area as big as you can, but if you expand too fast and you get too many slaves because of this, they will not be happy, and your societal decay will go up, and so that can really cause you problems. And so it's this constant balancing act of trying to expand while trying to keep your people happy. And as you expand, like I said, you get more slaves that are unhappy, that have an unhappiness quotient that goes into your societal decay. Also, if you are building too many buildings of one type or another, that can also go into your decay. Now, there's a lot to see here on the map. I'm just going to run around really fast, but I'm going to start to try to teach you the game by actually playing it as opposed to just talking about it. I guess we should just start up here, of course, quit, options. I'm going to turn the music off. Now, you shouldn't be able to hear it anyway, but let's go ahead and turn that all the way off. I just want to make sure that it's not, coming over the top of what I'm saying. You can set your own you can set your own keyboard shortcuts. You can do, different penalties, quick victory, blah, 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 blah. We're not going to do any, we're going to play the base game, all right? And so, as I said, we're on difficult. You can have 2 tooltips on, or you could change your faction. All right, let's not worry about any of that. So that's options. You can load and save your games. Okay, what do we have here at the top? The main things in this game, the main resources are gold that you see here, so your income, manpower, all right? Now these are not resources. So you have gold, manpower, metal, and then you see legacy over here, all right? And so your main things that you're really trying to build up are gold, manpower, and metal. Now, there are other resources, but these are the really important ones, okay? So they put them right up here. You can also do diplomacy. It has a very good diplomacy situation. Then you have your ledger here where you can look at all of the different stats of the game. And then you have your legacy. All right, and right now we start as a +1. We are getting that from controlled objectives, and you can see your objectives. They have this kind of golden crown around them. And of course, our home region is an objective, and so it's very important. Now, if we come down here to the bottom right, you have your different map overlays. Who owns it? You have population. You could come see that if you want. You have supply. Okay, free building slots, and we'll get into all the building, loyalty, movement, political, provinces. Now, provinces are very important in this game. Why is that? Because as you get more than half of the regions in a province, you can form that into a province and it gives you new military options, okay? And so the Galii province, if we're able to form that, we would get a special military unit because of that. I believe for Galii, I want to say it's horse, but I can't remember. It's some kind of cavalry, I'm pretty sure. Same with Aquitania here. If we can get over half of these, we get a special military unit. And so it is very advantageous to try to get more than half of a province's region so you can form it into a province, okay? Again, these are regions. This color, these colors are the provinces, all right? And that's something that you're going to want to control if you can. Now we get into trade goods. Now, the way trading is handled in this game, I think is fantastic. Bar none, the best trading system I've ever seen. Now, it's very confusing to people, I think, but really once you get the hang of it, it becomes kind of second nature, intuitive, what you should be trying to, the kind of buildings you should try to build, given the trade goods that are in a province. And as you see, each province has its own trade goods that are indigenous to that. Am I saying provinces? I meant region. Every region has its own trade good that or goods. Some of them have two that are indigenous to that region. So for instance, this region is figs. Our home region is silver, all right? This region here, iron, copper, leather, cattle. There are about, shoot, I don't even know, 30 or 40 different kinds of trade goods. It would remind you of Victoria 2 in that way, that also has a very in-depth trading system. But for now, we'll just remember we have silver in our region, which is a pretty good one to start with. Silver is needed, but there's some certain pitfalls of trading that I'll get into. Legacy and world wonders, okay, decadence from structures, relationships, you can get into all of this, ethnicities, all right. But we'll just go back to who owns them, and our Arverni are purple. So let's go back and let's look at a little closer at our region. So Arvernia, we're in Gallia, that's our province. We have a population of 6 pops right now, okay? It's an objective of ours as you go further down. We will defend with approximately 9 units because you do have a natural garrison at your home region. And so that is 9 units because we're also, they're also counting some of these units as well. But if we look at our garrison here, it's got a power of 27. That's basically 9 units there. You also see here that we have walls that are worth 3 of 3. Okay, now that's our capital city. But let's go back to the region here. Available food, 15, and we're getting +5 per turn. There is a forage value in every region that goes into feeding your army. So when you see a forage value of 5, that could basically support 5 military units per turn. And you see that here. Expected army food usage 9. Then you see hill. Okay, and so every one of these regions has their own geography, and it will be hill, or this one, for instance, is alpine. This one is hill. Again, hill, okay, we're hill. This is plain. All right, and why does that matter? Well, let's go back to ours, all right, and as we go down here, we can see a lot about our region. It is the main capital of Arvernia, okay? This is why the kind of terrain matters. Arvernia, hill, rough. It costs 3 movement points to go through here. Terrain, the natural defense is a +1 modifier, okay? But the most important thing is frontage. And Frontage says 8, and that means when we fight in this region, that on our front line, we can only have 8 units, all right? And if we look at our army here, we've already got 9 units. Well, actually, we've got more than that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's because they're not counting these warriors, but because these guys are considered a garrison. But we would not be able to utilize all of these units on the front line. We can only do 8 in this hex. But let's go over here to this province and look at a plain. And a plain, if you go down there, says open. It only costs 2 movement points to get through there. There is no terrain defense bonus, but the frontage is 14. So as you can see, we would really need an army that's at least 14 units strong to want to fight in this region, okay? All of that will become clear as we move through. So we've seen here, that is kind of tells us everything about the region. You can see how defensive the region is. The wall level is 3, and we will be able to build that up through research and getting new buildings. We will be able to get the wall levels higher if we want. This is the decadence, and we'll get into that, but a big part of that is the loyalty and revolt risk. And of course, you want this green, and you want it as close to 100 as you can get it, all right? And then finally, building slots. We've built 3 buildings here. We can, at this moment, build up to 6. And the important thing to remember, these are our buildings, and these are our building slots. The thing to remember is generally you can build as many buildings as you have pops. And so we have 6 pops right now. We could build 6 buildings. Now it's telling us you've only built 3, and you're like, well, wait a minute, I count 5. Why is it only saying 5? Well, you do have some things that do not count against your building limit. So for instance, public works, you see it is surrounded in green here. That means it does not count against our building limit, all right? Now we see down here, tribal council. Again, it's surrounded here in kind of a greenish color. That does not count against our building limit. We're just given that. Now we can click on each one of these things. It will tell us what this building is doing for us. It is giving us 10 culture points, 14 manpower points. It's giving us 3 in garrison. Its slot usage, 0. Okay, it does not count against our limit. This is called the Warrior Assembly because this is our capital. We have this. The region is a national capital. Bonus of 15 experience points when a unit is created in this region. All right, that's good to know. So we'll probably always want to create our military units here to the extent that we can. Hey, Stanley, what's up? How you doing? Yeah, Field of Glory Empires, love it. The other thing to think of here is this is a national wonder. All right, great. That helps with your loyalty. It helps people generally be happier. And it's a culture building. All right. So once we get down in here, what are we seeing? What are these slots? The top ledger here is for food buildings, all right? And as we move across, these pops are dedicated to gathering and producing food. So this whole top area across here is food. And so these will be the food buildings that we build. These are the pops that are dedicated to gathering or producing food. And then over here you see in silver, this is how much food we have stored up. This is how much food, excess food, we are producing per turn. All right, so green is food. That's what you've got going on here. The second one, and then now just forget about manpower, metal, and equipment. We'll talk about those later. But for now, just remember the top ledger, whether it be the buildings, your pops, or your stockpile here, is all food. The second one down is infrastructure. So as you can see, public works are infrastructure. Silver mine, that is infrastructure. A barracks, that is considered infrastructure. And when you go to build buildings, it will tell you which of these 4 categories that the building is in. So again, barracks and then large walls. That is all infrastructure, and these 3 pops are dedicated to maintaining or building your infrastructure. And as we see over here, we have no infrastructure points built up. Now these points are very much like a currency. They're just like an infrastructure currency, right? Right now we have 0 stockpiled, but we are getting plus 13 per turn. That's great. Well, let's just say that we wanted to move this pop up here. And how do we do that? It's been a while since I played the game. Let's figure out how do we do that. There we go. You have to highlight it and then click up here. So if I highlight it, I clicked on it, it will tell you how many points will be subtracted if you move this pop out of doing that job, and how many will be added if it's going to start doing this job. And then you can, so it's highlighted, click on it, and down it goes here, and it adds or subtracts to this point, or these points. Now I like to have the slaves doing food production. So I always start the slaves here, secondarily infrastructure. Now I have to click over here first to move the slaves up here. It's kind of a weird thing with the interface here. So I've clicked on this guy, I click on that, and then I click up here, and the slaves move up here. Now I don't want all of them up in food, so let's click on the citizens, and I clicked on the 3rd one back here, and then click here, and they move down there. All right, so we're plus 5 food, plus 13 infrastructure. I would actually like the food to be a little higher. Let's stockpile some food, okay? So plus 10, plus 7. You always want these to be positive, of course. Now you can build up a stockpile, that's fine, but you really want these to go positive and stay very positive. And you can do that through bonuses from the buildings that you're building. And so let's look over here. Now this does, you know, these are large walls. These are not giving us any infrastructure points per se. It's a wall, 3 of 3. It's very hard for an opposing army to attack that, but we can get even better walls eventually. Siege resistance is a 4, and it's got a garrison of 3. It's a tier 2 military building, which is considered in infrastructure. Okay, cool. Now down here, silver mine, total income. This gives us 40 money, including a bonus of 10 from copper, and we'll get into bonuses as we go along. It's missing a 10 bonus from gold, so we may want to try to import some gold, and it needs silver. Local trade good costs 0 money. We've got it. That's why we have a silver mine. It needs silver. Dreadful conditions, because it is a mine. It increases your revolt risk, and it gives you a loyalty penalty. We'll deal with that. Tier 2 infrastructure building. It says here, upkeep 4. What is upkeep? Upkeep is how many infrastructure points it takes to upkeep a building. Now, luckily, this is a dynamic system. And so as you see here, infrastructure production, our base infrastructure production from our population is 10. Why is that? Well, both of these pops are giving us a plus 5, okay? National modifiers from infrastructure, plus 20%. That's just because we're Celtic. There's nothing you can do about that. But it's costing us 11 to upkeep our infrastructure, all right? That's a big reason of that is this mine costs 4. What does this cost? 0, okay. The barracks cost 3. Walls cost 4. That adds up to 11, all right? And so when you're looking at what buildings to build, this upkeep is telling you how many infrastructure points it takes to upkeep that building. And it also tells you what it can be upgraded to and what it was upgraded from. Solid walls went up to large walls. We could go to massive walls, okay. Population. So as we move along here, your population's 6. It grows naturally from births and deaths. So we will get a new pop in 4 turns, all right? That's important because you need them working, all right? So then it also ethnicity. These guys are all Celtic. as we take over lands, let's say we took over lands in Iberia, they will all be Hispanic, or I think they're called Hispania, and they will not like us as much. We'll have a higher revolt risk. They will be more difficult to deal with, but we don't have to deal with that at the start. So anyway, going down here, food, infrastructure, then you have money, all right? And right now we're getting a plus 34. You can go and see why that is. Our base money from population, 0. Well, that's because we don't have any pops working in money producing work, okay? But our base money income is 40. Why is that? Well, we saw that up here with the silver mine. It's producing 40 money, all right? And then what else do we have here? Income, trade exports are 0 for now, but that will change as we start to import different things. And then we have taxes, overall regional money income. We'll get into all that. The final thing is culture, all right? In this game, I said earlier that it has this really interesting legacy and decadence scoreboard. And if you're in the bottom third of countries, you start to decay as a society. It's just a very interesting idea that I've never seen in a game before, and I really like it. How do we keep our society from decaying? We need cultural buildings. So this really, and we need pops working in culture. So this game really does a nice job, unlike a lot of other games, in encouraging you to go into culture and, you know, use money, use your population, do buildings that are focused on culture. Okay, so those are these 4 things. Now, when you look at the 3 things over here, manpower, metal, and equipment, these things are your entire empire wide, all right? Now, we don't have an empire now, we just have one region. But as we start to get bigger, all of these 3 items are shared in your bigger, wider empire. So they're set over here, okay? And we'll get into those. They're not important right at the start. The 4 things you need to be worried about are food, infrastructure, money, and culture. That is, you know, what you've got to focus on. Then we'll worry about manpower, metal, and equipment, but that's in the future. All right. Now, what else do we have here in our region? Well, we could build military units, all right? And these are the different military units available to us at the start. Now that will change, and you'll see a little green thing here for things that you have enough stuff to build these things. And you'll see red for things that are not unlocked, or at least you do not have enough metal, manpower, or equipment to build them, all right? And if you look at these, it will tell you their attack, their movement speed, their special abilities. It tells you their regular infantry. You can see how much money they cost initially and to upkeep, how much manpower, how much metal, and how much equipment. And that's the things you need to build units: gold, manpower, metal, and equipment. All right. And so all you have to do is, let's say we want to build a regular infantry, is you just click over here and you have a building queue for this region. All right. Now remember, we probably want to build our army in this region because they get 15 experience points automatically if they're built in this region. Now you can, as you take over other regions, build them there, but it might not be, the units won't be as good with experience because they will build experience. P. Warner says, we're looking for culture, we're looking for a good time. Well, we can always bring the 2 together, P. Warner. Let's hope. And so your building queue, this regular infantry unit, as of right now, would take 3 turns to build. As you get better barracks, as you get better military-wise for your buildings, your military buildings, that will come down, and you'll get to a point where you can build like 4 or 5 units at a time. For now, oh, and I'll just tell you, let's just go through these very fast because they are important. You have regular infantry, heavy infantry, Ambactus heavy infantry, which is kind of a special unit to the Celts, skirmishers, light cavalry, mercenaries, all right, and these all three are mercenaries. And then you have three different ship types. You have a light warship, a regular warship, and a heavy warship. And for the most part, those are the units that you're going to have for most of the game. Now, as you unlock new military things, or you create provinces, you will get some more special units. Like I said, I think that the Galli get kind of this special cavalry unit that's very good. But the thing to remember is your regular infantry is best, like every other war game in the world, it does better in the hills than the heavy infantry. The heavy infantry is better on the plains. So we have plain, plain, plain. We have hill, hill, and then we get over here into the mountains, alpine. Heavy infantry does progressively worse, as does light or your cavalry in general. It does worse as you get into rougher and more hilly terrain. And so, it's just common sense, right? Lightfoot, skirmishers, and cavalry do better on the plains. They do worse in rough territory. So just something to remember. Now we are going to build a light infantry unit and get that going. So that will build in 3 turns. So we don't need to do anything else as far as building military goes. We've already got pretty much the strongest military in the area. So we'll be fine there. All right, so let's click back on this though. So that's your building queue. And now you see 1 unit queued. No units ready next turn. Next unit is regular infantry. Okay. Then you see trade details. Very important. Arverni, that's where we are. The natural trade good here is silver. We're not manufacturing anything yet. We're not importing anything yet. And we're missing a trade good. All right. And that is flax. What does that mean when it says missing a trade good or missing a bonus trade good? That means that you could be getting bonuses based on what the other items that you have here if you start to get those trade goods. Well, there's 2 ways to get them. You either build a building that produces them. Okay, so we'll be looking for gold. So you see here, would generate the following bonuses. Because we have a silver mine, if we also get gold, it gives us an extra 10 money. All right, and then it says structures needing this trade good. It will tell you what those are. And then it says where they can be found, all right? And it says it could be found 5 hexes away, or 5 regions away, at Aravacia. Okay, what does all that mean? Well, you do not have to worry about importing things. The game will automatically import what it needs. And so you just have to decide, do we want to build a building, assuming it's available, to bring that in here, or do we want to build something else that needs gold that brings it in here? Okay, let's look at this one. Missing flax. Structure missing this good is the barracks. So we have a barracks down here that needs flax. So what does this need? Yep, you either produce it, trade for it, or steal it. That's right, P. Warner, just like the world operates, right? So what does this mean? Missing trade good. This is actually costing us money. It's not just costing us a bonus, it's actually costing us money. And so missing trade good flax is costing us 9 money every time. Where can we get this? Vocantia, which is a Celtic independent. All right, well, let's go look for Vocantia, because that's a place we may want to take over. And it says it's 2 away. I know it's around here, but we can just put on the trade good overlay and go look for flax. And where is it? That's wool. Where is flax? Damn it. There it is. Nope, that's hemp. Where is Vocantia? Well, let's keep looking. Pictoria, Bitagurgia, Liger. Nope. Nope. There it is. Vocantia. That is the signal or symbol for flax. This region has it. We need it. Uh, as long as we're importing it, what this is telling you is we are paying -9 money until we either produce it ourselves or take over a place that has it. So we're having to import it. It's costing us 9 money every time, okay? And so missing trade goods means it's costing you money. Missing bonus trades goods means you're missing a bonus because you do not produce it or have it in one of your regions. All right, I think that'll become more apparent as we move on how that works. Now, what's the other thing we have to do? Well, we have to build something. I say we have to. We don't have to build anything, but we should be building something at all times when you have open building slots. Right now, we have 3 open building slots, okay? And so what do we want to build? Well, let's see. We could build a shepherd house, all right? That would give us 5 food. We're already doing okay on food, right? We don't have any food buildings, but we're doing okay on food because we have a lot of pops working in the food industry. So we could do shepherd house. It would give us 5 food units every turn, but it would cost us 1 infrastructure. Why is that? Because the upkeep is 1, and it also costs us 25 to build. That's not high, all right? This is a tier 1 agriculture building. You pretty much always start at tier 1 buildings, and this tells you what the other tier 1 buildings are. This is just like a card game. These are random cards that pop up each time, and so you can actually ask it to reshuffle. And remember how I was saying we need flax? Well, let's look at the food again, or the tier 1 agricultural. If we look here, we could possibly get a ranch, a flax field, a salt mine, a stud for horses, orchard farm, or hemp field. Well, we got shepherd house, all right? It produces wool, and so wool would then become one of the trade goods in our region, all right? And so it's just something to keep in mind that if you need wool, you want wool, and then it tells you where it can be imported from. I don't really think we need wool at this point, and 5 food isn't the most important thing for us. Herbalist. Now, herbalist, you go food and then health, and food and health will be right up here. So health is in blue, but it's considered kind of an offshoot of food. If we built an herbalist hut, we would get +6 health. Why is that important? Well, it helps your loyalty, and it also helps your pop growth to have better health. So you would get a health bonus of 6%. This tells you the other health buildings that are tier 1. All right, and it's basically you need 3 tier 1 buildings before you get to tier 2, and then of course those tier 2 buildings are even better, right? And then it goes up to tier 4. So you have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. But you generally have to build 3 tier 1 ones before you get into tier 2. Now we started with these tier 2 buildings, but that's not normal. That's not generally what you're going to get when you go to a new province. That's just because that's our home province, or our home region, I should say. And so we just started with those. Now the next one down is infrastructure. So we could build a clay pit. Now I clicked on that, and it shows you here what we would be building and how many turns it would take. 16 turns. Well, I don't want to take that long, so we're actually going to click off of that, all right? And what would that do? The infrastructure cost is 110, but there's no upkeep for this. It would produce -5 health, 4 infrastructure points per turn, and 2 money, and it produces stone. So stone might be something we want or something we need. The next one down is archery, and you can read through this. It gives a bonus 5 XPs when we create archers or skirmishers. Now we don't even have those available yet. This would unlock or start to unlock having these better kinds of skirmishers, okay? Then we have the market. The market is -1 infrastructure, -1 money, but it would give us various bonuses. You can see what the bonuses are here, but it needs pottery, which would be trading required. You generally do not want to start building things early on that require trading because that costs you money. You have to get it from somewhere else. Not the best thing. Then we have our culture, okay? Culture here, the preceptor house, all right? It reduces our decadence. It does cost a lot of money every turn. And why is that? Because it needs papyrus. Now, our papyrus, right? Let's say it, papyrus. Papyrus is very interesting. It's only indigenous to the places in and around Egypt. You can eventually get there. I'll just point this out right at the start. Papyrus, do not build anything at the start that needs papyrus. That's how I said we're going to say it. Do not build it because it is going to cost way too much money. Instead, we're eventually going to build up to it through, I think it goes through like rice fields, and eventually you get to papyrus because you really, really, really need papyrus because eventually you do want this preceptor house because this is very powerful. Anything that reduces your decadence, it doesn't matter whether you can read or not, P. Warner. All we care about is our decadence reduction. So to be honest with you, none of these are great choices, but I don't want to shuffle early on. So we're just going to build a shepherd's house. All right. The reason I'm going to do that is we will naturally then bump this up to +14, which means we can take one of our pops and start moving it down the ledger here. And I can tell you, that's how I always think about it, which is I start with the slaves up here and whatever other citizens I need to make sure we have enough food. But as soon as I can, I start trying to move them down, all right? Because these are kind of the base needs, your food and your infrastructure. Then you get on to the higher needs like money and culture. So just kind of think of it as like these guys start falling down the ledger here. As it is right now, we're building food. We've got food, so let's go ahead and move one of these pops down. And as we move this into infrastructure, you'll see this clicks down to 2 turns that it will take to build the shepherd's house. Let's do that again. It was 4 turns. If we put this guy in infrastructure, now it's 2 turns. Right? So doubles the building speed. Now let's take this guy and move him down to money. You see that +5? Now you can see it added 5 to our money. It subtracted 5 to our infrastructure, and it bumped this back up to 4 turns. We could move it down to culture. Now culture is +15. Money goes back to +34, all right, and this stays at 4 turns. But we're going to have this guy help build. It's just like a building game when you're trying to build your settlement, a survival game. You want to make sure you have enough food and enough infrastructure points to build this stuff as fast as possible. This will be great. We'll get that built, and then we can probably, when this adds a +5 to food again, we can get this guy out of here and maybe get him down to culture or something like that that we really need. All right, so for our one region, we have now started building one building, which is a food building, and we started to build one military unit, which is costing us 27 gold, but we have 300. And we're getting 11 a turn, so that's good. It's costing us 20 manpower, but we have 200, so that's fine. It's costing us 5 metal, but that's fine. We're positive in all of these things, right? And then 20 equipment. As you see up here, we're getting +8 equipment a turn. That's why it's going to take 3 turns to build this. We just do not have any equipment at the start. We're going to do +8. There's not a whole lot you can do about that other than to build things like barracks. Barracks add to, and let's just go look at that. I believe our barracks add to the amount of equipment we produce. Hold on. Start disassembly. We don't want that. No, maybe it's not barracks. I guess we're just producing 8, I'm sorry, naturally. Let's see where it's coming from. Oh, there it is. Equipment for production, or equipment production, base from the population 8. Okay, so we're not getting any of that from structures. You can build things like armories and whatnot that up your equipment, and we will do that. Yes, Civ 3, Stanley. Yeah, this game reminds me a lot of Civ, only I think it's a little better. I'll be honest with you. I really like this game a lot. Okay, so we've built everything we can build. Now let's go look at our army really fast. Here we are. We've got, we could rename our army if we want to. We have a general, and let's go click on our general. And here, oh, whoops. Actually, we'll just tooltip over him. His offensive rating is 0. His defensive rating is 1. And you're like, well, what does that mean? These generals can go up to 2, all right, naturally. Now they can get bonuses above that, but the best base offense rating would be 2. The best defense base rating would be 2. So this guy is a 0 on offense, which makes him kind of average. Defensive rating is 1, so he's a little better. But as you see a little lower down there, he is a flanker. And how would we know that? Well, this is the little flanker symbol. So he gets a +1 for attack, all right, which is pretty powerful, right? When you think the base is 0 to 2, he is, when he's attacking, he's actually a 1, and he's a +1 for movement, all right? But that's only active, that flanker, if he's in open terrain. Like the plain here, that's open terrain. But we're in hills, we've got hills all around us. He's probably not our best general. So we click on him, and we have other generals available. And you see here, Arverni is a 1 and 1, all right? Semenos is a 0 and 0, but you see here, he's an ambusher, which means he gets a +1 for the entire stack but that's only active in forested terrains. Well, that's pretty specific, right? But if we do send him off, or we have a battle that may happen in the forest, Semenos might be a good guy to send. What about the guy below him? That is Cronus. He's a 0 and 0, not very good, but he has a +2 movement bonus because he is relentless. But he has a defense penalty of 1, so he's actually -1 on the defense. Well, let's pick this 1 and 1 guy. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, in the early game, 1 and 1 is pretty dang good. And so we move him in here. Now, I can tell you, remember how we were 99? When you replace your general, for 1 turn, this disorders your army, and their combat value will go down just for 1 turn. So at the end of this turn, when we flip over to turn 2, they will be back up to 99. Okay, so you'll see their combat power, how much food they use. Now remember, there's a forage value. If you look down this tooltip, you see the forage value is 7 here. Here it's 7. Here it's 8. If you go to a region that does not have a high enough forage value, it will make your army suffer. And then this tells you what the move speed is, which is 4. And if you look here, you can see, I think you can see, it tells you how much, okay, let's get off of our army really quickly. It will tell you how fast you can move through these things, or how much cost there. There it is. That's the cost. So you see hill rough, the cost is 3. We're moving at a 4, this army is, so it can move all the way through this region in 1 turn. All right, what's the move cost here? It's 2. All right, so we could move through 2 open regions with this army in 1 turn. All right, so now let's take our army and let's think about, where do we want to expand to? Well, as the Arverni, we have a problem in that we're landlocked. We do not have a coastal region, and we don't want to be in that situation. All right. We don't want to be in a situation where we get completely surrounded and we don't have a way to the coast for a few reasons. It's harder to defend. We could not start a navy, which we might want a navy. And also because you can set up, you get certain buildings in coastal regions that you can set up to trade, and also you can have a a fishery, you can have a port. It just has a lot of advantages having a region on the coast, and so we're going to go get one. Well, what is the best one to go get? Now, as you can see, Emporia and Massalia border this one. All right, so we might not get there in time. But this one up here, it's not directly bordering Aquitania. Aquitania will have to move here first and then here. So if we can get here first, we can get up here to the ocean before they can. All right. So how do we move? Well, we click on our army and just pull it out here, and it'll tell you how many turns it's going to take to get to a certain region. And if you look here, for instance, it would only take us one turn. Why is that? This is open, it costs 2. This is open, it costs 2. We could get here. But meanwhile, here, this is open, so it's 1. But the fastest way to get here is to actually come through this forest. And so forest is 1 turn. This would be 2. But I don't really want to go this way. If it's going to take 2 anyway, let's get these plains here because they're better for farming, they're better for food production. So I'm just going to right click, and that locks it in. And that is going to be our movement path. All right. And with that, we've kind of done everything we can do in turn 1. We've set up building a shepherd house. We are building another infantry unit. I guess we should go and look at this army more over here. We right now have 1, 2, 3 heavy infantries, and as you can see, it's like cards, and you can see these and you can go look at them. What are they good at? What is their combat power? How many hits can they take? And we'll get into that, their effectiveness. You can hit control and click, and it'll tell you everything that you would ever want to know about this unit. You can see their penalties, attack penalty and defense penalty, are in forested, swampy, and mountainous terrains, so you can see that. And then we have just regular heavy infantry. Now you can see the Ambactus is a little better. Its combat power is 8, the regular is 7 for combat power, okay? Then we have some light cavalry, and we have some warriors, which are kind of a light infantry, maybe medium infantry. Medium infantry is better. They're sort of, kind of like a step below the heavy infantry. And then we have some skirmishers, all right? And you can read through all of that. We'll get more into that as we get into some warfare here. But first of all, now we've clicked on them again, it's highlighted this again. We'll just need to go right click and lock that in again. So we've done everything I think that we can do in turn 1. What is this? Message. Oh, this is the message log down here. That's not important. Just looking around, making sure I didn't miss anything. I don't think so. And then we hit in turn. And when we come back next time, if you guys like this one, if you want to know more about the game, give me a like, give me a comment, give me a subscribe or a follow, whatever you want to do. Just let me know that you're enjoying this one. I'm going to try to play a different game kind of every week like this, a game that I really like. And so if you did enjoy this and you want to see more of it, let me know. I'm going to play a couple of more rounds of this no matter what, just so it becomes kind of like a tutorial if you want to get started. But when we come back next time, I am going to resolve this turn, and you'll see how the game works. We're going to go try to take our first region in the year 310. So in turn 1, we're going right after it because we've got the best army in the area. So we're going to go try to expand as fast as we can. So anyway, thank you guys so much. I always do appreciate it. Thanks for stopping by the stream, and I will talk to you next time. Strategy Gaming Dojo out.